March 1943. It was spring in Oklahoma. Jacob Millbrook was hungry Vordalak, a Russian vampire ghoul. His belly was growling from the lack of human meat, and he'd been making do with the meat rations he'd been able to get since the war started. Like the rest of his family spread across Oklahoma, he had to be careful who and when he ate. They couldn't afford to attract attention.
Jacob was a captain in the guards for the McAlford prison camp outside of Stringtown, Oklahoma. He worked the midday shift, which gave him time to watch and pick out his next meal, which he had done recently. A nice juicy German POW by the name of Fritz Buller, who make many late-night trips to the latrine. Jacob had been watching him for weeks. Tonight, he was going to eat.
Jacob chose to hide in one of the storehouses where food was kept for the POWs. It was separate on the inside of the POW side of the fence. They received the same rations as the Army enlisted men did at the time. Jacob waited till full dark, which seemed to take forever in Oklahoma in the springtime because of the daylight still around so late in the day. He was relieved when he could walk over unnoticed to the latrines to wait for Fritz. It didn't take long for Fritz to show. Jacob was well hidden. He waited for Fritz to come back out and caught him from behind. One hand was over his mouth, the other was around a man's midsection. Jacob drug Fritz behind the latrines with a strength that Fritz had not known existed in this world and could not fight. What looked like opened its mouth wide with 1,000 teeth, it bit into his throat with an effortless move that was the last thing Fritz ever saw. The warm life essence rushed into Jacob's gaping maw of monstrous despair. It filled him, curbing his hunger. There was a scream. It didn't come for his victim. Jacob released his dying victim, realizing he'd been spotted. Suddenly, a guard tower spotlight moved in his direction. Jacob ran for the back fence, all the while disappointed he didn't get to finish his meal. Jacob leaped onto the fence like the animal he was, climbing it with all his might. He climbed so fast, the shots guards fired zinged past him. He flung himself over the top, cutting up his hands with a razor wire. It would heal before his next shift. Jeeps, men, and guns gathered to look for the creature, only to find no trace, and it was gone. The next day, Jacob came in, good as new. No one suspected it was him. But to find they were adding electricity to the fence, per the base commander. This was going to make it harder to get a meal for poor, starving Jacob Millbrook.